What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and I'm joined with Lexinator 22, aka Alex VR, over on Twitter. We're going to be talking about Shanks here in EB02. So what we're going to do is he just won Chinoze's Cup, and with Shanks, so he went 7-0 there. We're going to talk about his deck list because he's been pretty consistent showing up with it and just been playing the same list. And then we'll talk about my deck list and then kind of like why we think Shanks might not have shown up yet in the meta. And then we'll finish off just kind of talking about a couple of the new matchups here in EBO2. So let's go ahead and jump in. So, yeah, Alex, of course, we have your deck list here. Congrats again on the win. If you just kind of want to like break down, like go through card by card, like why those ratios and whatnot, because I know your list is a little bit different than mine. And then we can just kind of talk about the list all together.
Okay, hi there, nice to meet you. At first I saw this list actually. I always look a set ahead to the results that I have in the East, which will be very disadvantageous for me when we get a worldwide release because I'm not the best deck builder, I believe. And then it was this list, but it had Yasop instead of Marco. And then I started playing it, practicing a lot the green-purple matchup because that's like the boogeyman of the format. And then I came to the conclusion that if you combine quite obvious building Snake with Marco and Snake, you can hit like crazy numbers sometimes. And the Marco also is really good into Lucci, which was supposed to be a really bad matchup for Shanks with like the older list. So that kind of clicked together. But yeah, like the combination of building snake, stage, bomb shanks, and the new gate, the control variant, I also enjoy it more because I was playing Marco a lot as well and trying to make it work. And I basically feel like Shanks is always better Marco, unfortunately, as you know. Um,
It's
and
not.
and
It's
that's
not
why I came here.
entirely incorrect. Also, like Noel calls it red Lucci because like at this point, like when you're playing control, it doesn't cost you as many like minus things. You're removing bodies with one card because like the power requirement versus like the cost, so it's a little bit more easy to do so. Yeah, and then like of course I noticed you went with the Marco. I of course in my build do play Yasop. Did you ever feel like a hindrance on Newgate? Because obviously 5 into 7 Newgate removing a 6 is incredibly consistent and reliable. Versus just like they go 5 and then you get to potentially like building Snake, Marco, KO as 6. Did you like miss Yasop at all? Like was he did the Marco feel better?
Absolutely. Actually, every time at first when I changed it, I thought like, okay, what if this was yes up here? And I feel like the spots where that would be better are so incredibly rare because even into green purple, when you go first and on 5 you would play Yasop and next turn you would play Newgate, you still would not be able to clear the Sanji Pudding they would have played on 6. So the Marco has more high roll potential. It gives you the minus percentage chance in the Teach matchup, and it completely turns the Lucci matchup. So I think the upside of those things combined outweigh the Yasuo pick by far, especially because there's no Doffy.
Got it. And then was Marco also nicer because like in Lucci for Uda? Because I noticed you only play 5 events. The stage doesn't actually count for like trashing for Marco. So you have 5 potential targets to save him. Was it more so like the occurrence when you could save Marco or they just weren't going for Marco? Or was it more so just like being able to remove that Uda because we no longer play the rushers?
Well, obviously removing the Utah or like with stage getting a Brook or something, or Rebecca or anything late game when your tank cost is already active. Mainly the pop function is amazing, but having the upside of your opponent, like, shall I go for it? Shall I not go for it? So usually they like have to swing kind of big on it, which already makes it advantageous. If you combine it with your leader ability, basically it makes you a 6k leader for the couple of turns that in the mid game. So I think the upside of that is huge, and the odd chance that you actually have the event, which happens quite consistently because if you do the numbers, it's not that unlikely that you would have one. I think all of those put together, like for me, it's a given. Like you have to play it. Like if I could play 6 or 8, I would also do it.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then sell me on Divine Departure. Anyone who watches this, anyone who's like talked to me IRL as well knows that I call it Divine Doo Doo. The card, so like Chris Sock tried to tell me, he was like, he's like, my list is really good, and he performed phenomenal with it. He's continually showed up with Shanks playing this, and I'm so happy for him. But every time I played it, like, because now we play, of course, even more 10 drops, so sometimes lists only ever even played like 3 no pop Shanks. Now we're playing 5 10 drops. We don't play dragons, so we're like playing less 8s because we just have the Rayleigh. Was Divine Departure like exclusively green, purple, everything else, it's maybe Marco fodder. On the good day, it's going to be a counter. But, like, obviously, we want to start hitting those big drops. We play the control with the Shanks. Like, and I play a different event because whenever I played this, it was always in my life. It always felt bad. I was dying with, like, 3 of them in my hand and no Dawn active.
Oof. I understand what you're saying, but that would be my memories of OP10. Those would be my memories there because it was always underwhelming, and I was like, oh, I bought these super nice alt arts. I want to play them, but then I always forced them in the deck while they were really awful at that point. But now I think the fact the so I have this combination with the stage, the Marco, and the buildings, in which actually comes up more than you would think, or playing out Hongo to kill the Sanji pudding. But having this as a how do you say that in English? A fail safe,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
a
fail
fail
safe's
safe.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can just pop it on 6 and play. Like I at first I wasn't convinced, but now I've been talking of cutting a stage, but then at that point, why not cut the stage altogether to add in a fort? Because that has been amazing. The versatility has been crazy. I have been clearing kits. I have been clearing with Building Snake 11 costs. With Building Snake plus stage, I like you can do the math yourself. I have been amazed by how well it performed, honestly. So late game, there are also these points where you do Rayleigh to minus something and keep it back because you're as Shanks are really damn hard to kill, especially when you keep those back. Early game or in the mid game when it's clear I'm not going to use it, I can also pitch it to Bad Manners. I can pitch it to Marco. And I have been loving the versatility. The amount of times I actually use it proactively is actually quite high, I would say. Even on a 7 cost Luffy, when sometimes you have these awkward turns on 6. Because you can have those with Shanks, when you miss your curve. On 6, I just pop this, clear the board. Okay, basically we time walk a turn, which is good for me because I wanted to go to the late game and dropping my bombs. So I've been loving it, honestly. Like, I am highly considering playing a fort.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then let's go ahead. I'll share my list, and then I'll kind of go through it, and then we can talk because there's a couple differences, but a lot of similarities too. So first off, right, I think the biggest thing notable is I'm only playing 3 Uda, and that's kind of just like to find more room. I don't think 4 Uda is wrong, right? Like I think if I was just looking for extra space, same thing like if you were looking for that extra divine, but like again, we're playing this Rayleigh. Rayleigh is just MVP right now because like Rayleigh
Mm-hmm.
plus stage is gonna do like mine, and then you can KO the Sanji pudding, but it also can potentially remove or just make their 6-drop Luffy not as strong, and then every other matchup green. Lucci, this card is incredibly powerful. You minus characters, you pop a blocker or anything like that, or you just minus and remove pressure. Just the best red card probably just bar for bar because it's generic, no requirements, and it's just really good. Just minus, it's essentially a 5k counter on the worst day. So you've got like we're playing the Rayleigh, we're playing the Shanks. 2 pop Shanks, I think is just correct. Sometimes sometimes I just want to play 4 and 0 rushers, but the
Yeah.
rush is still really good. And like if you don't play this, you're just 1,000,000,000% losing to Blackbeard, just no question.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he still has his place. I think the biggest thing though is right. I'm playing Yasop. I love the 5 into 7 Newgate curve. I will say though, and I wasn't like if I was the cut a card, it's probably the Uda, but Uda is so powerful right now. I hated searchers historically in this deck, but the building snake, like if you have 2 building snake, you can in most instances completely clear green purple's board.
Yeah.
And then because like you're like they swung with something, and then you're going to use the other one in combination with possibly like a Rayleigh to like KO that, and then you swing into the other thing, and then you can either like this can also become a swinger if you have these established, depending on how low, because we do have stage right. So a lot of combinations there, but I really like the Yasop Newgate. I think it overperforms when you see it. I did like in my head right now, I'm thinking possibly even because I play Red Hawk over Divine Departure because I just love the trigger's so good, but it also works really well with like you go Rayleigh Red Hawk, you're just not losing that turn no matter what their board is, as long as you
Mm-hmm.
have cards in hand. It's just too hard to get through, so I just love that combo and I love the trigger. But I understand like because if you don't hit Sanji Pudding and they play another one, they can really snowball you.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's done.
Yeah, and so like I get it. I get it. I would almost like want to go like 3 Newgate if I was to make like in my head change to be like 3 Newgate and then possibly even like one more stage of Bad Manners, maybe like one of Divine, but also so a big thing here, right? Like cuz the deck is we just play control, like we're the ultimate control deck that isn't Lucci. I noticed you didn't play lime juice. Did you consider having lime juice? Like, how do you feel with just 12 2Ks? And then the two bad manners.
I didn't miss it at all. I actually did consider it, but I don't. There never come up when I win games is because I completely control the board or my bodies are so high that I can pressure my opponent down. So I actually have never thought about, oh, I'm missing this to push through game. Obviously, it's nice to have when you can do so, because when you have like a 12 two 12Ks or something and he has the one blocker and some in hand, it can push through. But I feel like in this format I don't actually need it. Uh, in this control list, because we, yeah, usually we just have complete control of the board by the time we actually go for game. It happens rarely when I have to go for it with like this ridiculously obnoxious swing. That doesn't really happen percentually that often. So usually it's we control the board, nice and easy, big drop, we're still quite healthy, or we by playing our big drops we can often force our opponent to go for it next turn, and we can set up this turn where we calculate that they can't hit us back and we win on the backswing. So usually that's how we win. So I have found it to be overkill and not necessary.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because like that's obviously why I like brought him down to 2, right? Before I wasn't even playing Hongo, but Hongo like overperforms now because like you
Yes.
establish him. A lot of decks don't have the removal, so like in the mirror, I can play this and like yeah, it's I have to if you play Marco really good, so like Marco really good in the mirror because like otherwise usually on like your 9 Dawn turn, if you have Pop Shanks, you'll try to establish Hongo and something else. So that way, when they play their 10, if they want to play their 10 drop, you have to Hongo and then just drop your 10. How do you feel like overall about Hongo? Like, what are you usually using Hongo for?
At first, when I was starting out with Shanks in this format, I wasn't really sold on Hongo, but that was because I was playing it wrong. Because where it's good, it's amazing. Like when you go first, for example, versus Green Purple, you drop it, and they're kind of obliged to play their Zoro on 4 just to hit it. But it's also like you can just do ability 2K even if you want, if it's really relevant to you. And what I also do is on the awkward turns where when you go second and they would go to their 5 on turn next turn to play Sanji Pudding, I just played that instead of Lucky Roo, which is counterintuitive. But then you can already set up the clear with like Building Snake Marco next turn, and so they have to respect it sometimes. And when you have it, you completely change the tempo of the game. So there are a lot of shenanigans with it possible in by like playing it in turns off curve where you usually would play something on curve to set up removal for the next turn, and I think that kind of the edge of the deck. It's not an amazingly difficult deck, but I think that's where the edge is, like those little decisions.
Got it. And then so like overall, like looking at this list, do you think anything here is just like incorrect?
Red Hawk really bothers me. Like the Divine would bother you, Red Hawk. I'm like, okay, only in a Dofi, but I friggin' hate Red Hawk. I always feel like I have to make suboptimal plays just to have it open or active, or can't pressure through. I understand, but in this format, I would definitely not play it. Also because the stats with my list versus Lucci are very, very, very good. So that's where I could see it to pop like a Brooker or a Becca or something. But apart from that, like Betty and Zoro are manageable without it. So the Divine Departure for the upside of the most played deck for me is way better. Also in the random games versus Teach, it definitely happens when you go like stage building plus Divine Departure. So it's just more versatile all around, in my opinion.
Got it. No, I again, and I see your point. Like, I won't say it's wrong. I just like this card. I mean, it's so it literally just this card buys you a turn when you just normally wouldn't, and like I get it because like again, like my favorite combo. It's usually the only time I'm ever usually doing this if I'm like rallying, right? Like rally this just keeps you alive plus the trigger. But no, I fully understand it. I think the biggest thing that I've again like kind of like missed was Marco, and maybe it's even like you could possibly even do like a 3-3 split here if you wanted to get crazy, because that was like I was like building Snake plus Marco is such a strong play on 6 against anything like Luffy, just purple Luffy. You can remove the 6, like just removing that 6K early, because otherwise you don't have any removal on 6 and all your removal is later like 8 and 7. But having that opportunity to potentially move a big threat, and then again, like we're not playing rushers, so we don't like before you could still like play like, oh, okay, like I'm playing Sanji on 3 so that you could swing into something small before you go to your 5. But we typically, unless if it's like a game where we want to establish that Hongo, we're not playing anything on 3 anymore. Outside of, again, maybe like an Uda. So we don't always have that like swing into like possibly like that Uda that they just played and turn sideways or like things like that.
Yeah, I would just play out the building snakes when I have them, so I can just pop the Zoro. I understand where you're coming from for the Yasuo, but at that point they already got a hit in as well with the character. So I really, yeah, I don't think it's the right call, the Yasuo all around. Like it's less versatile, it's more situational. I think the Marco is really the difference maker all around. Till the point that I actually considered going up on building snakes to like 2 Gordons or 2 Raise Max or something as well. So if I would cut the stage, I would actually add 2 more Raise Max just because the Marco has been so darn good.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. And let's go ahead. So I just want to jump in and kind of talk about like, we kind of covered the deck. I mean, it feels really good, right? Like, I think we've both seen some success with the deck just overall, and then like our approaches to it. But like then we go and we look at these events, and then so far, like you see here, there's even Edward Newgate, Smoker, and Odin, and we don't see Shanks. We see Usopp, we see Zoro, we see Lucci. Not even, we see one Lucci here, but like, and again, the big majority is of course this green purple Luffy. Do you think a Nike? Because and I've said this before, because like Shanks doesn't convert. Like there's a lot of Shanks players, but it doesn't convert. I think it's because people like Shanks is inherently like it's the curve deck. It's quote unquote easy, but for me like the micro decisions really matter and define your game. Like you might pitch a card that you need. Like you have to know if you're going to need this card and like how to value like what you have, or if you need to take that life dig for something. Because like you could be that hand of all 2Ks and things like that. Do you think it's like a pilot possibly like like it's just the right people aren't playing it, everybody jumped ship to green purple Luffy, or do you think the deck is just inherently weaker right now?
I honestly think the play rate of the deck, or maybe the play rate on like top tables, as they would say, just dropped a lot. Like I barely play any mirrors anymore. Like I barely see it because if I look at the graph at the right, for example, then like almost all of these matchups are at least slightly favored because you're still Shanks. It's like 53% maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But like versus green purple, when it's a great pilot, I think we are slightly unfavored. When it's an average pilot, I think we're slightly favored. Bad pilot, we're actually favored. Lucci with the control build is a very good matchup when you're playing the Marcos as well. My stats versus it are very very good, and in like the last 3 Chinois Cups, I played it 5 times and I won all 5 also. Zoro going second is favored. Usopp favored. Like you can go it all around, and it's only like Luffy when they go first that they hit you bad. But with the control version, it's also better than with the aggro version. So like there are not a lot of decks. Okay, Teach is a free loss. Just hope to skip it the first rounds and to get there. But there are not a lot of decks that actually Vegapunk I see as well. It's a really good matchup when you know it and don't scrub like me when you don't know it at the start. Um, so yeah, I genuinely think they just people jumped off to other decks because they were holding on to the old Shanks list, which was the aggro Shanks list, and that lost a lot of percentages because if I look at an aggro Shanks list to this at this graph, I see a lot of bad matchups. But when I see play the control list, I see a lot of good matchups. If you understand what I mean.
No, for sure. And that's again like, it really kind of took me. I was like, no Shanks. And like, obviously the first Treasure Cup, sadly, I wasn't able to make it in. And I like woke up super early, was super ready. I was like, oh yeah, today's the day. Funny enough too, I was like telling myself I was going to play Ace just because I think Ace is a decent matchup into a majority of things. People just like, it's like 45-55. So if you like uphill battles, but it's like every game's pretty winnable. The biggest power is the element of surprise. But no, I think a part of it is like a lot of the good pilots on Shanks kind of switched over. And I think, again, a part of it is also like your luck, right? The biggest thing, like you can get very unlucky, it's the curve deck. You miss a curve, especially against, green purple. That's why we brought back the new gates, how we have 7 curve plays, keeps that consistency up as before, like, it kind of made its way out just OP10 and all these different things. I think this time around, because there's more events like this weekend, I think we're going to start seeing that Shanks pop up. If not, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm playing Shanks this weekend. So wish me luck. But yeah, and I was looking at your list. I was like, should I just try this? And I was like, looking forward to this conversation, right? Because I was like, give me some a little bit more idea of what I want to do going into this weekend. But like, we get a good idea. We have this Luffy, we have Purple Luffy. And I think Purple Luffy, you just go first, you win. It's overall like I don't think like it's so favored the moment you go first.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Which
But
is
we
why I
all
would think that Yasop is a win more card at that point. I get it when you go first and you play Yasop, but it's also when you have Marco instead of Yasop, you lose some percentages. But in general, I think the Marco is better across the board, and you're already doing well if you're going favored.
Sure. No, I get it. And then like yeah, like we also like we have the 10 drop pop Shanks, which is huge. Like that gives you so much momentum against this deck because usually they go 9, leave 1 up. You play your 10 drop, you minus if you swing into it, they're just gonna giant, and so it's usually more valuable to go face in some instances because it's like okay, if I go after their board, like unless you really want to peel cards or in a really good spot. But 10 Shanks, you just play it, boom, it's going to KO anybody that they just played, and you instantly have the momentum, and then you get to swing with it the next turn, and then potentially even do it again, right? So, like, I think Purple Luffy's a lot better. Vegapunk, if you're healthy and establish a 10 Shanks, you just win, especially with, like,
Yeah.
Newgate. Newgate's, like, a win more card in there, because
Oh yeah.
you can go, the big thing, and I think a lot of people don't realize, is against Vegapunk, if you just clear their board, you can stay at 0. And if you can clear their board every turn, they can never beat you. Unless they play
Yeah.
Rush Ace. Most don't, though. But in most instances, you can just go to 0 and they cannot beat you if you can just clear their
Yeah.
board.
They only when they high roll with the thing that can't be killed when they have less life than you. When they go out guns blazing early and have like 3 by turn 3, then they win. But otherwise, when we know the matchup, I think it's hard for them. Very very hard.
For sure, no, absolutely. Well, yeah. So yeah, I think end of the day, there's a little bit to it. I think that this is just small sample size, 2 events. If it doesn't happen again, it might just be something. There might be more to it, but I think it's just it wasn't Shank's time. Smaller events, and I think just everybody jumps ship to other things. Again, like this is the most diverse like list I think we've seen in a while. Even though it's still predominantly green purple, a lot of decks have an opportunity to shine. So yeah, I think Shanks is going to show up just a little bit more at the tail end of this format before we go OP11. But yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of talk about these matchups. So first one is obviously I think just really want to kind of touch on this. This is Straw Hats are coolest. A lot of these are very similar, but they of course have like their own tech options. But this of course kind of like give people an idea of what they're going to be playing against when you're Shanks. The great part is, right, like Electric Luna has very little power on us because we're mostly top end 8s and 10s. You do have like the Beckman 7, but after your 7 Dawn turn, you just never want to be playing another 7. Newgate 2, but outside of that, like Electric Luna has a lot less value against us, and then we have like really good removal. Eventually, Luffy can kind of run out of steam and not be able to just go like, you know, you can only play 2 bodies so much, and then there could even be a point like you usually don't want to play pop Shanks, but they only are able to establish 1 threat because they have to protect themselves. You can just pop Shanks it and things like that. But overall, for me, like game plan and what I'm looking for is, one, I want to go first, right? So that way they have to play their Sanji on 6, and it's easier for me to answer that on 7 with stage. More cards KO it. Versus if they go first and you're going to 6, you need stage into, like, if you're not playing Marco, you can't do it at all, and you have to wait till 8 to remove it. So we definitely, and open for your thoughts too. Like, it's 100% first, right?
Actually, I picked second in this matchup.
Really?
Yeah, because you're gonna find me crazy, but I actually mull for Divine Departure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I keep hands that are suboptimal and have Divine Departure, because you know with this deck your mulligan basically dictates how your game is gonna go way more than with other decks because you can't really fix your draw. So a hand with like stage building I would keep. If I have like Hongo building and like high removal I would keep. Like when I win this matchup, it's because Sanji Pudding never gets to see the next turn, never, and that's usually how it goes. So I play heavily around the Marco and around Hongo Building Snake stage and Divine Departure. That's all the early game, and then obviously it's very nice when I start hitting Rayleighs or Bomb Shanks after. But definitely second, by the way, huge difference.
Interesting. If you weren't playing Marco, would you still choose second?
That would actually change my mind, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah,
Got it. I think that makes
definitely.
sense, right? Because, like, to your point, like, with your build, it makes sense to go second. With my build, I like going first, right? I'm not playing the Divine Departure, so I don't have that bonus. And then also, I play Yasop, so Yasop stage. Newgate is going to
Yeah.
remove it, stage. And what's his name? Beckman is going to remove it, so I have potentially, like, on 7, 6 different cards that are going to answer that Sanji pudding. But of course, like, you know, as you're saying, maybe I'm in the wrong, and Divine Departure
Well,
truly
if
is
you
the
look at the
truth.
stats that TCG Matchmaking released, the stats second or first are also 45% going first. Obviously, that's our like all Shanks builds combined. But first, it will be like 45% unfavored, and second will be 55% favored. But I believe most people aren't even playing control, which adds to the point that with control, it's even better
No, you're
going first.
so I was playing on the sim, and I just faced so many aggro Shanks, and like control Shanks kind of like loses to aggro Shanks. And I was like,
Yeah,
somebody play
100%.
the real Shanks. I was like, I'm just losing when you know, I was like, and it is what it is, because like you lose to a real red deck, and it's like when they play rushers, it hits your face and it adds up, and they spam 10 drops, and you're like, oh, this is not going great for me, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I think, you know, and maybe you're onto something, right? Like, you know, I actually, it's so funny because I'm so terrible at picking which one to go, just because I never I never win my dice rolls. So I'm always like, yeah, like I just win here. So like I'll just keep doing. But no, I understand. I understand. Maybe it is second. And then of course, right, like you've got the Uso Hachi. So we only play the 4 blockers, but you have to be careful because like the Monkey D. Luffy, this card, I always, and I'd love your thoughts too. If it's late game, and usually like this deck puts on a beating because it's like almost like a red deck, and it's kind of like, you know, like RP Law. It does similar thing. It goes super wide and just kind of hits you a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
always like, if they for some reason have Sanji Pudding and they play this, like this card is a game finisher, and it can usually set them up for game. I usually try to prioritize. I try to remove both, but I prioritize removing the Monkey D. Luffy. I'm not sure if you have like, if you've had scenarios where you're like, okay, and you still just decide to remove the Sanji Pudding, or if you go for the Luffy.
Those always break my brain when you have these specific scenarios when they have both and you have set up that they will go for a lethal turn or like they might stall a turn, which is why it's the best deck because they have the option to choose so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's literally just depends on the calculation basically. It depends on what they if I remove the rusher, what does the Don give them? Does it set up a turn where like you have to think 2 turns ahead basically. I can't give you a right answer. It really
Sure.
depends. Basically
Right,
do
right,
I
right.
die or not?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I agree. I agree. Like, cause it's super situational. Like, do I have the counter? Do I have this? Like, so much goes into it. I just wanted to make sure, And then, like, what is your for your list? What is your overall approach? Like, what are you looking to curve out into? And like, what's your ideal turns against green purple Luffy?
Uh, Sorry for going first or second.
Whichever. Like, so you can go over both. Like, if you said, let's say you're going first, what are you? How are you prioritizing that?
So okay, so if when I win the die roll, I obviously pick second. So that would ideally I would have stage on the first turn, which would be perfect. And otherwise I would just play out my building snake or searcher Utah to set up my hand. On the fourth on turn, that's where it depends on what I did on the first turn. If I didn't have stage, I would still play the stage. Usually when you just play a curve, you would be like, oh, I just play Lucky Roo, but that would not be my preferred play. I would rather set up Building Snake because then I can follow up with a Marco play. And also because at 6 done, I can still play the Lucky Roo if I don't have anything, and just play Lucky Roo plus Searcher or plus uh, Utah or Building Snake and still hit 6 with Leader. And then when we go to, or I would just define Departure, the Sanji Pudding. So it's either with Marco I can get to clear it with combination of the stuff I've played before, which happens consistently, or I play Building Snake. So usually it doesn't stick. And then we go to 8 Dawn. Hopefully I've hit stage or I have a Building Snake. So I can do either with stage Rayleigh, which would be the best play at that point. If I get to clear on 6 on the Sanji Pudding and then on 8 Dom again with Rayleigh plus stage, I usually win. It's over. But if not, sometimes I have to do awkward things at that point, like Otama Beckman on 8. No problem at all. If I'm missing stage, I would just do that. And at that point, if I'm still healthy, around 2-3 life, then we get to play the big drops. So it really depends. But what really changes the matchup is if they hit Luffy Taro or not. And if you can't remove the first Sanji Pudding and they get to play a second one, you're also 2 behind. Like the first one really needs to be gone ASAP. So that's why I play out either Hongo first or Building Snake stage. Doesn't matter. Something has to get out, prioritized over Lucky Roo. So you will be able to remove it ASAP.
Right. And to your point as well, right? Like when going second, 4 is actually a super safe spot. When you go first and you play one of those on 3, it opens them up for an easy Zoro. Like unless if they need to search for Sanji Pudding because they don't have it. But when you go 4, you can play like Hongo or ideally, that building snake because it's a brick out of your hand. And then like on 5, if they don't Sanji Pudding and they decide to answer yours, you're already winning. So like they want to
Exactly.
Sanji Pudding.
Yeah, so that's why on 4 it's like don't play Lucky Roo, like play a Building Snake or something, or give them or a Hongo and give them something to think about. Like if they have to Zoro on it, like you're winning because you time walk the turn and that's good for you.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah. And then like so like Luffy Taro as well. Like it's funny cuz in Asia they started off with Luffy Taro, then they like quickly cut it. And then in like OP11 it's made its way back and then like we're literally just like kind of following in their footsteps going into like that Luffy Taro and he's a big body. He hits hard. It's the same thing when you play against him in Purple Luffy, right? Like he usually sticks for like a turn or two, and he might stick the whole game as long as you're moving Sanji Puddings. They still like can't get enough to like really pressure you. It's when they get those Sanji Puddings and then they get to play the Luffy and they get like 6 Don back because they they minus restood 2, gained 2 type vibe, and then you're like, oh, like you paid no Dawn for those cards, that it really just kind of gets out of hand. So like, do you typically, I'm gonna assume, like, don't address the Luffy Taro threat? Like, he is like the least threatening, because like Sanji Pudding and 6-drop Luffy are their real bosses, and then if like they don't have those, like then you can like address the Taro.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, it basically says smash for a life every turn, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even if it sticks.
Cool. Yeah, and then so pretty much again, you kind of just want to, in this matchup, we want to prioritize removing Sanji Pudding. We want to prioritize setting up our minus, because it's very expensive for them to answer. Even if it's like, yeah, they get 2 Dawn back, but like they're playing Zoro using his ability, and like it's costly for them. We want to prioritize just removing. If we can keep their board clear, keep Sanji Pudding, keep the 6-drop Luffy. Nothing else really applies pressure. Those are their like 2 win cons. So if we just keep those clear, it's a pretty easy matchup.
Yeah, well, pretty easy. I noticed when I play versus the real good players, they would like keep a lot of characters active, so you can't really deal with it all the time, and then do bigger swings. So there is a lot of skill to the matchup, but I think mostly from their side.
Sure, absolutely. I agree, because like once they turn their body sideways, Building Snake is the best card in the world.
Exactly.
Like, because like
Yeah.
I've double Building Snake, cleared the whole board, and it's like, yeah. So they have to be very careful, because they will lose a lot of those cards when they do that.
Yeah.
Cool. And then yeah, want to talk about like Lucci, right? I think this is like everybody's like Lucci beats Gurple, green purple, it beats it. And so it's like everybody's on it. They're playing the Uda. This list actually did not, which is crazy to me, because Uda is the most annoying card in the world for Shanks. And maybe, that might be part of it. But then you of course have 4 Kuzan. They get greedy. They're only playing 1 Sabo, so a lot of our cards are going to remove their bodies pretty easily. They've slowly just continually cut down, but then they also have added in like it becomes more popular too in OP11, but like the 10 Kuzan, people are starting to pick that up, dabble with the Sengoku, but like Mancherry again, where your Marco kind of shines, because Mancherry is super annoying. It's essentially a 5-cost Rebecca, but like it eats a swing too, and then like if they bring back a Rebecca, then they play Rebecca, you have to have more than 1 swing to remove it. Otherwise, they're just going to Rebecca and save it and do it again. So you have to have 2 bodies stuck. Like, Lucci is incredibly annoying, but like all of our cards, we have the trash. We have the Pop Shanks, which now answers Jack. So it's a lot. Like, Jack is nowhere near as big of a threat. Pre-ban, Jack was the biggest threat to Lucci, because if they stuck Jack, we kind of just lose, because then they go Gecko and they can remove anything we play. But they can't do that anymore, and they could, of course, like then get to establish a blocker, and you have to deal with that. So overall for me, I'm always going second against Lucci, just because Kuzan and taking away the Kuzan turn, but then also like they now have 10 Kuzan too, which also can incentivize going second for them. So their second curve is just crazy. We want to take that away, but then we get the 2 removals, right? Like you get 7 Beckman, and or like Newgate is really good in this, because everything else is pretty much like a 5. All their really good cards are 5s or below. And then you get like the Rayleigh, and then you have your 10. Like 10 Shanks is so good. It costs them so much, but it like to remove it, and then it also just takes things away.
Yeah, that would be my prime reason to go second, is just our own curve. Because, okay, you play Rayleigh, you deal with a piece of the board for sure, and you trade usually into something like a Mancherry or something. And then, okay, they have to use pieces to remove it. Okay, next turn you go 10 drop. Okay, they have to use a lot of hand to remove it. Next turn you go with another 10 drop. It's stuck there. It's stuck. They can't get rid of it anymore. It's like you said, you have to have bodies that stick into the late game, but again, like Marco is the ideal piece for that, because they have to awkwardly swing at it at certain points. And also like yeah, they Lucky Roo. Just Lucky Roo. Lucky Roo is insane
Yeah.
in this matchup. It's a hard mulligan. Like if I go second and I can go Lucky Roo, so if I have like Lucky Roo, Marco, I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be great, and I can just follow up from that point with any of the nice removal big drops. On Jack, why also just do Otama Beckman, or at 9 I would go Rayleigh Otama. Like I would clear it on side Jack. That's kind of an important one. But apart from that, like Lucky Roo deals with everything in the mid game, And also, yeah, when I can prioritize killing Laboon or Kuzan, I always prioritize Laboon because with Kuzan they have to swing, and then I can swing back into it, because that also kind of starves them because don't hit their life. So that's also a little piece of advice.
Absolutely, yeah. Because like the biggest things, like I just hate going life at Lucci because like you want to do it like more late game, but like in the early game, because like if they don't, once you hit your late game, if they don't have resources, it's very expensive for them to remove a body, and the moment they can't remove a body, you just snowball. So like their big thing is, right, like I'm gonna remove, if they remove a body every single turn, or like every body that you play, they're up, because it doesn't matter how low they are, you don't have anything to swing with, and like nobody plays rushers. But now it's like, okay, like you get those cards out of hand. A lot of their counter is like their bodies, so like you're swinging
Yeah.
one case, it's like Laboon you're getting, or their removal, they're giving you a Brook. So it's like now it forces them, they don't have Gecko to play 8 Rebeccas, they're playing the Man Sherries to make up for it. You get those cards out of hand, you get them like 4 cards, it's going to cost them potentially 2 to 3 to remove your 10 drop. And then like once you have that, once it sticks, then you're like, okay, you continue to like tax their board, remove it, but then also like slowly work that life, and then you just snowball from there. So like the moment that they're stuck, they have to take 3 life to get cards, and they remove 1 body on a good day, and you have all your other bodies, and they just all turn sideways again.
Yeah. Also, stage Loki puts in some work sometimes. Like it's not obviously the matchup that you play it, but it's not awful when you have it early because like you swing leader on a 3k Brook, which obviously they're not gonna counter and they really want it to stick. Or like even on a Kuzan, you can do usually when you would like Marco something, then you can just do stage on the Kuzan, and then you have on 6 done 1 done left, so you can do 6 on 4 on the Kuzan with your leader. So little things like that. Stage actually isn't that awful.
Right, exactly. No, yeah, and like stage, it's just a great, like if you see it and you're going second, it is the perfect 2 play, unless you need the surge with an Uda for something for that matchup, because then it's just like it's every turn that you have it, it's essentially like a free Dawn, kind of like
Yeah.
Shanks leader. Shanks is so resilient because, and the reason why we use his ability so much instead of just like taking hits, kind of like taking cards, is every turn that's 1 extra card that we had. So by like you go to turn 7, you essentially got 7k worth of free counter, and it like so on and so forth. So like the longer you had like the stage, and if you play it on 2, like it's going to help you clear those bodies just a little bit more, even if you're just swinging into them and not using like your pop, like, or it at like forces, it's like 1k counter extra out of their hand every turn in like the same respect if they don't just give you the body. So it's like it's incredibly taxing, and it adds up. Like you have your Shanks going for you, and now you have the stage working for you. Even before, like even in OP09, I wanted to play stage so bad because just mathematically it's so good in like long game, just because what it gives you. And I'm like, like I wish it had. If it had trigger, I would just play it at 4 because I'm just gonna trigger it out of life at some point, and then I'll figure out what to do with the others. But it's like it would be so nice if I could just play it for free, but they won't give it to us. But yeah, no, I think the
Oh,
stage early like is incredibly impactful.
yeah. So this matchup, I know everyone is always saying, "Oh, Lucci into Shanks." I just checked my OP bounty stats for like higher ladder, and I'm at the moment 17 into 4 into it, and then counting real life events. In the last week, I'm 9 and 0 in the last 2 weeks in real life events, which are like mostly the Chinois Cups. Shout out. Which he does Swiss on Wednesdays, which are usually quite high level with very good players. And I still, yeah, I beat all the Luccis. I would even say it's my almost my most favorite matchup, and I love to see them all the time.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, but yeah, so Lucci pretty much again, we're playing their game, we're taxing them, and we're removing their bodies. It's you're just red Lucci, I think is like really truly the best way to
With
put it.
bigger
But
bodies, yeah,
yeah, better bodies, better bodies.
yeah,
But yeah, cool. And then yeah, I think one thing I kind of just want to talk about is Bonney, because like Bonnie's changed a lot with the addition. I think the biggest thing, right, is people are now playing Carrot, like maxing it
yeah,
out because like it freezes. Like they're not playing Electric Luna like the other like um green purple is, but they are adding in things like carrot. They're adding things to stun because like it stuns every card in green purple, but it also like to your point again, like Yasop can get stunned and then you're not going to be able to get that free 6k removal again until you answer the carrot. So like it gets on play and when attacking, but not this list. This was a top 16 list. I think actually top 8 from the most recent Treasure Cup. But I've seen people even splashing in the Don Quixote do Flamingo, which is incredibly impactful in the matchup against Shanks because we turn a lot of our cards sideways. But we now play Pop Shanks. And so if somebody plays that 10 drop and they don't have Tashigi, and you just play our 10 drop and steal all of their momentum and establish a monstrous threat. So I think that's super noteworthy. But they also, because like, and it's a good thing we aren't playing all the rushers because they now play 4 Shanks. They weren't maxing out on Shanks either, but this Shanks is like the best removal card, I think, just in the game because it removes anything.
Mm-hmm.
And just wondering, like, Bonney used to be free. It feels like a much tougher matchup. Want to know how you feel about it.
Well, I'm again going to slam on the same nail, but if you look at Lucci as well, like the targets for Marco, look at this example list, like which stage I hit Tashigi with a Marco, I hit
Tashigi, yeah.
Rominante, I hit Killer, with Building Snake, I hit Cavendish, I hit Carrot, I hit Rouge, I hit Pedro, like Marco is insane in this matchup, insane. Also, with if you have stage plus Newgate, poof. Like it's gonna be a rough. Like the only way they're winning is when you make mistakes and they can punish it with a 9-cost Shanks, or when they just really aggro you. So early game you have these little spots where you can actually play out the Building Snake, or like you go when they go Searcher. If they play those builds, you can play out like Building Snake plus Utah, so you have a certain response for it for the next turn. And then basically, yeah, they will have to answer it, and you play their game. You go very healthy to the late game. You play all your bombs, bombs, bombs. You get to remove them. So yeah, it's still very, very favored. But sometimes when not paying attention, you can obviously get rushed down with Hody Jones. But if they win, it's usually because of the big Shanks, and you don't have enough big drops. That's usually how you would lose if you lose.
Yeah, exactly. I still think like I don't think it's necessarily unfavored, but it's nowhere. It used to be free, and I think the matchup still isn't like. But like right to your point, you're playing stage Marco, getting rid of the Tashigi, just answering the Tashigi early is huge, and then of course them not seeing it is also in this matchup too. Do you ever find yourself, because like Hongo will enable you to remove the pop shanks, but usually I just let them live, then I like try to swing into them because they like usually pretty low on resources, because you kind of like starve them out too, like just to prevent the kid, and then like you poke their bodies because like we just prioritize removing their board, and then again easier with stage you can make a 6k of 5k even if you don't have the removal, but building snake too, you're gonna building snake, and then to your point Marco everything in this deck, but then you can also like stage Newgate just any body in this, but like their good bodies are going to be that carrot, that Cavendish, their Eroge, even potentially like that Pedro, which is incredibly spicy. And then like Hody, right? Like if they Hody like in late game, you can just drop a 10 drop and KO it, which is huge because it's really hard to answer Hody. It's like giving them 8k leader, which is pretty much like them playing kid.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what I was thinking as well, what I usually do on the Shanks, because you go healthier to the late game, because that's with this deck, that's just what will happen, because you will trade back and forth. And then the Shanks is basically also take a life each turn until you get like either with stage a bomb Shanks or your other Shanks, which swings in it and nets 2 cards for you. But what I also often do is just Building Snake plus Divine Departure, which clears it.
You love that card.
Yeah, I love that card. But also, like on 6 Dawn, when I don't have a play and they play Carrot or Cavendish or both must remove on side cards, I will just Divine Departure on 6 Dawn. Again, we Time Walk a turn. Next turn, I follow up with Beckman plus Otama or with Rayleigh, and I get to clear their next body. So, yeah, I also do that because they get a lot of value when they stick.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, again, kind of like same thing, right? We're playing the control deck. Big thing is like answering Tashigi. Don't fall bait. The moment, and I did it. It was so funny. I had like game. I was like, I'm gonna win this game, and I was like, I just gotta trash Tashigi. And then I was like, I'll trash your blocker. They're like, I'll rest Tashigi. I was like, what just happened? I just told myself I need the trash Tashigi. Like literally, I was like, okay, yep, I lose. So like, it's incredibly important, like and it's like it's a very beginner mistake, I guess. But just don't fall for Tashigi, and as long as you don't fall for Tashigi, you usually can control. Because like the biggest thing, and I'm just looking here, I see bricks. That's what I see. I see bricks, and that's what Bonney is. So like this 2K checks really hit because sometimes they'll give you 2 1s and then you're just like, oh yeah, it's on, because they don't play a lot of 2Ks. And it's kind of like the 2K check is just huge in just the meta in general at this point, unless you're Shanks. I mean, people still do it, but we play like the most 2Ks. But yeah, no, I agree. We want to play it's just tempo. You just want to prevent them from having board or like their early board, because then they can't, like, those are the powerful cards, because then you need the answer later stuff is what you want to answer. So like if a carrot gets the stick, then you're just gonna be down 2 bodies every turn. Or like Cavendish, if they go Cavendish into a big drop and like playing into the curve that they're on and still being able to use their leader, it kind of snowballs, because you're like, well, I need the answer like this Hody or this like the Eustace, and I can't answer the Cavendish anymore. So I just think it's just incredibly important. Make sure you can answer the bodies early game, and then just play your game in the late game.
Yeah, really MVP.
Really MVP, 100%.
Yeah.
Cool. And then last one I just kind of want to talk about is Enel, right? It's funny. My motto was like, the moment Rygo got banned, I said, no Rygo, no problem. I'm like, what are you gonna do? I play 210 Shanks. You have a 7K. What are you gonna do? Cry about it? Like, incredibly ruthless, because like yellow just kind of I think yellow kind of triggers everybody, right? Like we've all lost to yellow in a very salty way at some point. So I'm like, like, and Enel is like the most resilient leader. Every format he finds his way in there somehow. And so I'm like, okay, but like the moment Rygo was banned, I'm like, you just play your 10 drops and you just kind of win, because then you just like incredibly tax them. You rarely want to give them resources, but now they don't have any way to answer a 10 drop for free, and they usually just don't have a way to answer a 10 drop in general. Katakuri can be very annoying if you only see 8 drops, but we only play Rayleigh now, so it's a lot less bad. But like I was playing Rayleighs and Dragons, and they just went like 4 Katakuris, and I was like, I'm gonna die, because I couldn't find like the 10. But now, like, I think, and we have Pop Shanks too, which removes any body that they play except for like the new Enel, and we want to like swing into them. I think the matchup's still pretty good. I think we have to set up for the Enel though.
It's not uncommon that I end this game with 4 or 5 Shanks on board.
Exactly.
Like that. It's not uncommon. I noticed that people play it either one of 2 ways. I don't know what the correct one is, but either they go early and they always do like full leader swings. So they kind of like they go 8 and then etc. to pressure your life. So late game they try to get away with some rush characters, or they go full starve, which I feel is more annoying, honestly, because then the Yamato gets into the bigger characters, so we put them at 2 then. So I have lost this game before, but that's usually when I'm really bricked and they hit really big, and then finish with the rushers, because sometimes they also play like randomly the 7 rusher and stuff like that. So like you can lose. Also the full starve also happens sometimes because you're Shanks and you don't find your big drops enough, and then they clear like 2 big drops with the Yamato, and then you're like, so Eustace Kid just caught me alive. Yamato caught 2 big drops, and then they steal the game. But if you just the game is dependent on you, not on them. If you see what you have to see, it's really hard to lose.
Exactly. I mean, because like every game is losable in the same way every game is winnable. But like usually in this game, I'm prioritizing. I'm mulliganing 10 Shanks. Either one will do, because like their bodies go sideways. The moment it does, 10 drop, turn it sideways. You're giving me 3 cards, or it's dying. And usually like you just want to I usually will put like maybe 1, maybe 2 hits on them, leave them at like 2 so none of their abilities are live, and then just after that, as they play bodies, I'm just going after their bodies. Like, either give it to me or you give me a card, and then I want them low on cards. They start playing these big drops. They either can't turn them sideways, or the moment they turn them sideways, I'm going for them. But we can either like pop it, like, even the, Newgate and Building Snake removes Katakuri.
Yeah.
Stage Building Snake removes Eustace or Yamato. Like, so many bodies we could just remove. So if they don't turn it sideways, they could lose value. If they turn it sideways, they can lose value. And like, even playing the Building Snake on like, Katakuri, they turned it sideways, you bot deck it, swing 5 at 5, and you can just tax their hand.
Yeah, exactly. Just watch out for the Eustace kit when you don't expect it and you go too low early because they can't really pressure you and you just take a lot of cards. Like that's something that can happen. Like respect the fact that they play it now, and then it's also sometimes very beneficial to keep back the Beckman just for the Shirahoshi because it might matter when you have to go for it in like nasty spots. Don't play out the Beckman when you can choose to play Rayleigh.
Exactly.
It's
Cool.
obvious, but still.
No, for sure. Well, super appreciate it. We've taken a lot of time, just like briefly looking ahead to like OP11. How do you feel like, cause like it's blue purple format undeniably. How do you feel about Shanks in OP11, and what do you think is like the biggest change towards like approaching that format?
So I was actually right before this practicing the blue-purple matchup versus Shanks to see how well it holds up because the green-purple matchup doesn't really change, and the rest of the format, well, we have to see with the starter decks.
Mm-hmm.
So the blue-purple matchup, the builds sometimes differ a bit depending on how many rushers they play. You can get into the late game with them because Bomb Shanks hits anything in the deck, which is really good. But by the time you're at Bomb Shanks, like they usually have three big bodies already. So I think the build will needs to adapt because we can't deal with Zorojuro on side before it gets a hits in. And the Bonclays, oh my god, the Bonclays when they play 2 or 3, they just sit there and they're waiting to be 12k swings, but you have to deal with their big body, so the Bonclays just stick there. It's really annoying. Like I think the deck will have to adapt a bit to be able to deal with it. But I think it's possible. But they find their pieces more consistent, and when they high roll, like the entire thing with blue purple is that they push decks like Enel and Shanks out of the format. I think so. I hope it can adjust. And then maybe the newly revealed starter deck card, like from playing the like whatever it is, 5 at 10 testing games, I can see the new 9 drop that was revealed. That
Yes.
that one is, yeah, like I can see how that one would be major because they play that body, you follow up with that and you can still pressure their life a little bit. That would be relevant, but I don't see any other matchups where it's game breaking. But it's just a generically strong card, and specifically for that matchup it does a lot, but I think we will need a little bit more than just that, to be honest. And also if Teach gets a little more popular with the pieces they have now, like Teach with the build we play now is just a free loss, we just scoop that matchup. And that, yeah, that doesn't really fix that matchup. So I don't know how Shanks will be placed. Like it might find a spot again. It probably will. But I'm still unsure. Actually, Marco might be the better Shanks for once because it's apparently decent into
It is really
blue
good.
purple. Yeah, and
It's
green purple.
It's
So
just
maybe that.
because. Oh, sorry. In late game, because like I'm a Marco guy, right? I played Marco. Marco just gets to like he does the same thing Shanks does, but in his late game, he gets to play two bodies in the same way that um blue purple does. But then you also get removals, so you're usually removing a body while establishing two, which kind of makes up for it. But then also like you're able to swing into bodies, like they restand their Lin Lin and like you can swing into it at like 7 though because Marco's always going to minus something. So like it's very much like it's just because his dawn efficiency is like he gets like 2 free dawn every turn. But back to like Shanks, like I still think it is pretty good in the like it's okay. Like I beat Shanks in Japan with blue purple, and I was like, okay, like it is a uphill battle. I think talking starter decks, I think the Shanks is a huge boost. Being a 7K, so being able to be resilient when they're going for lethal is huge because essentially for every body they have, it's an extra 2K. And then being able to play it because we don't get to play big bodies until like 2 turns after they do, depending on like our curve. And so, but now that's changed because now we get to play out that 6-drop, not 10K. Against him, so I think it's a huge help. I'm excited to see. I hope Shanks is the next deck released, and I'll definitely be talking about that. But yeah, I think the deck, it's not bad by any means, but like blue purple is just busted, is really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps every fair deck out of the format basically. So, and if that means Teach gets an uptick, then yeah, I don't really see. Then it's either play aggro or join it. Maybe green purple is well positioned then at the end of it. So I don't know. It really depends on the starter deck. So I'm anxiously awaiting what we get.
Yep, same. Well, super appreciate it. If there's anything you want to plug, feel free to take this time.
Well, another shout out to my boy Chinois with his cups, which is the reason you found me. He hosts them every Monday, Tuesday, and often Wednesday online, and it's with a lot of very, very good players. It's like most of the time level that you would find at top tables at a regional level. Very good pricing, and it's like the only thing when for Europe you might or might not know, but we didn't get any onlines, and you guys might have as well. I can't recall. So we have not a lot of events. So basically, the entire meta around here is set around these live streams that we get Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, where people pick up IDs and prepare for the greater tournaments. So that's for sure a shout out I wanted to do.
No, absolutely understandable. No, he's a really good guy. I've tried to be on it a couple of times, but like the timing is just so bad because like I work most days. And it's like, okay, like Europe versus US, but I'm definitely trying to participate in one. I've talked to him about it before, but super appreciate it. Go check him out on Twitter, or like, you'll find us in Roberto's, like, what is it? One Piece University Discord, all those guys. Europe's got a great community. I appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Thank you.